our speaker today, Eric Hellman. I am told that Eric makes a pretty mean chili and a killer spaghetti sauce, but that's for later. Now, let's prepare for Eric's meditation and message as we sing I Will Surrender along with Karen Drucker.
I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith, and I am stronger every moment, every day. My mind is willing and my heart is open wide. I trust my instincts and let spirit be my guide. I vow to live a life that's real and pure and free, as I continue walking in this mystery. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith, and I am grateful every moment, every day. There may be walls, there may be roadblocks in my way, but I can choose to take a higher path each day. And now I know that what I thought was safe and sound was only habit and regret that held me down. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith, and I am kinder every moment, every day.
Good morning. And as those echoes of Karen's voice and music reverberate inside of your mind, your heart, your soul, take a gentle breath and sit back and relax. Just notice what's going on in your mind, your chest, your heart, and your body, and welcome it in. Welcome in the tingling or the tenseness, the flow or the stuck place, the love or even the fear. And take another breath. As you do so, begin to hear just very gentle strains of Carl's guitar. And let the echoes and the sounds take you even deeper into that place within that merges us with our divine self. We are a part of each other. We are connected at a level so deep that we can barely recognize it at times. But through that open-hearted acceptance, that opening of ourselves, the surrendering to that greatest, highest good, we can touch that connection. That place inside where God lives. Take another breath. And in the silence to come, just invite the Holy Presence in. Open yourself to the divine and listen to your inner being in the stillness of the moment. And as the sound of Carl's guitar begins to echo into your mind again, begin to come back into the room. Into your body. Move your fingers and your toes. Come back into the third dimension. Notice the light around you in the room. The sounds of people or cats around you. Come fully back into your chair. Focus on the screen. And we'll begin to close. And into the talk. Thank you, Carl, and I welcome all of you here this morning. This morning, today's talk is about using wisdom to create a better world. And this is boy, it's a talk that goes way down deep in my soul. And I'll try to share some of the reasons for that as we enter into the space today. So as you're aware, if you've been here the last couple of months, this year Unity Worldwide is exploring what's called the 12 powers. These are the powers of the human mind that help us personally to express and experience our larger divine nature. And as you heard, this month is about wisdom. And that picture, if you can see it on your screen, looks a little bit like the start of a Cecil B. DeMille film, if you know that one, 10 Commandments and other things. And you know, wisdom evokes that concept in us. because the question of what is wisdom is one of the world's timeless, really big questions. It's a question that has been contemplated by people like Socrates in ancient Greece, 425 BC, for example. He was known for the phrase, know thyself. And he was also a teacher who didn't teach by telling, he taught by asking questions. One of his students also contemplated wisdom at a very deep level. This is Plato in maybe 375 BC. He once said, thinking is the talking of the soul with itself. But he wasn't just ethereal. His belief was that wisdom isn't just about having knowledge, but that it is meant to guide our actions. Now, 200 to 300 years before him was somebody you might recognize, Lao Tzu, in ancient China, 6th century. He's believed to be the author of the Tao Te Ching. And he once said or wrote, to a mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. 2,000 years later, another explorer of wisdom, this time Shakespeare, said in or wrote in Hamlet, to thine own self be true. You can see this exploration of wisdom is ages old. So I guess the question I would pose to you, looking at this guy with googly eyes, is, am I crazy then to take on these legions of wisdom thinkers about the term wisdom? Well, as I reflected on that, I thought, I think it's something we all need to consider. Why? Because we are all faced with making choices and decisions in our lives. From the very small, what am I going to have for breakfast today, to the challenging, what am I going to say to this person that I'm at odds with? How am I going to choose a new job or a new career or a new relationship? The life we have now and the world all around us are reflections of these choices and our level of wisdom. So wouldn't it make sense then if we had more of it? Today, what I'd like to do is, rather than define wisdom, I'd like to invite you to look through what I'm going to call 4 windows onto wisdom. And with each one of those, I want you to think into what speaks to you, what resonates for you as you look through each of these windows. And here's our first one. I call it the story of Solomon. If you're seeing the video and can see this beautiful painting by Luca Giordano back in the 1600s, there's a picture of a man lying in bed asleep, and then God above him connecting in mind with the angels around. Well, this man asleep is actually Solomon, one of the kings of Israel, son of David, who was quite young when he became king. He was estimated to be between 12 and 20 years old. Well, in the biblical version of Solomon, it says, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream one night and said, ask for whatever you want me to give you. Pretty open invitation, right? Well, Solomon answered this way. He said, you've shown great kindness to my father David, and now you've made me your servant king. But I am only a little child, and I don't really know how to carry out my duties. So this is what he asked for. He said, give me a discerning heart to govern your people and distinguish between right and wrong. Well, God was so pleased with Solomon that he said, since you have asked for this and not for other things you could have asked for, long life or wealth for yourself or even death of your enemies, I will do as you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart. And even more than that, I will give you what you have not asked for, both wealth and honor, and make you an equal among kings, almost unequaled. Solomon went on in his life to live that prophecy, to become one of the most famous kings for both his wealth and his wisdom? Well, as I listened to that story, I was reminded of another passage in the Bible that says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you." It's kind of like if we seek for the consciousness of God, the wisdom of God, the knowing that is in the mind of the eternal, that simply by going in that direction, all these things can be added into our lives. The next window I'd like to explore with you is one I call the story of Eric. And I'm not putting myself on a par with Solomon. That's not intended anyway. It's just another story to ground me into my own reality. So over the past few years, I've shared a lot of stories of my life and the ways I've tried to walk my journey. One of them is this picture. That's me with the hair. Yes, a little unrecognizable on the left. And that was the day of the first Blue Box collection in September 1981. Well, in my journey, as I've reflected on, really for the last 45 years, I've had one overarching North Star, if you will, guiding me. It's that I want to see change in the world. I want that with a deeper passion than I can barely say. It started out with wanting to reduce pollution. And from there, it took all sorts of different forms. It was wanting to be able to heal illness and sickness, wanting to end poverty, wanting to be able to calm forest fires and end global warming. My desire to see a healed world goes so deep and so broad, I can barely put the words to it. And that's what has guided my life. But here's the thing. That was my love when I began working back in the late 70s. But in the ways that I tried to make change, that was creating me and others a lot of conflict and pain. And that was the split inside of me. And what I found through the spiritual work was that I needed to change my thinking. I needed to start thinking with my divine mind, with my Christ mind, with my loving mind, instead of my fearful, conflicted mind. I needed to begin to listen more, not just to my own thoughts, but to spirit, to the deeper wisdom and call inside of me. I needed to learn how to shift from pushing people to change, to inviting them to change, to listening to what they wanted, and to treat people differently. And I needed to learn how life works at a deeper level. And that might sound a little strange, but think of it this way. If you put your key into a door lock or a car lock and it didn't work, and you took it out and you put it in again and it still didn't work, and you put it out, took it out and tried it again, eventually you'd say, there's something wrong with this key or this car. But that's the thing with life, is if what we're doing isn't working, bringing us what we really want, we need to discover what does. What change are you wanting to create in your life, in your relationships, and in the world around us? Think about that. And then think about, is what you're doing working for you? And if it's not, then maybe finding a deeper level of wisdom, a new way of understanding how life works, may be important to you. The third window, picture, story I want to explore is this one, the story of the universe. Yeah, this one's a big one, a mind stretcher a bit. And actually there are two stories I want to explore with you. The first one you might recognize if you can see the photo. This one is a picture of what the Big Bang might have looked at. The creation of the physical universe 13.77 or so billion years ago. But that's not the only story of our creation, is it? There's another story that says, in the beginning was God. And these two stories have been very much at odds over the years. But perhaps we can look at the one on the right as saying something like, perhaps before the physical, there was a spiritual universe that existed, that many call God. But the name isn't so important as the existence of another deeper place. So why do these stories matter? Well, for me, to have wisdom, as I said, we need to know how things work. If the first one, the Big Bang, is the only truth, then everything is physical and everything is separate. Look around you and see that the people around you, the trees, the forests, the buildings, whatever, they're separate from us. But if the other worldview is true, that we are all spiritual, that everything comes out of larger mind and consciousness, well, that shifts the entire game of who we are. We are then connected, and change can happen not just by changing the things outside of us and the people outside of us, but what's within us. The way I like to summarize it is, if everything comes from mind, then it can be changed in mind by changing our thoughts. Because our little mind is intimately, profoundly connected to the one mind. And if you can see these pictures, here's the way I'd show it. Think of yourself as an individual with thoughts that seem to be separate from the world around you. And then imagine that's not the entirety of you. In fact, the largeness of you is this mind, the mind and heart and the light of the divine. And that each time we touch wisdom, we keep expanding that light and that love and that connection with the holiness within us. Well, I think that's in fact why Jesus came to the earth. First, to tell us that how life actually works is different from what we mortals think. There's a much larger world to be explored and understood. I think the second reason is to show us more of what is really actually possible. Like in these pictures of Jesus manifesting the loaves and the fishes, Jesus healing the sick, the blind, or even raising the dead. Jesus affecting the environment, calming the storm by his ability to connect with the truth within him and around us. Lofty ideas for sure. But I think then that I would simply say that's the kind of change I want to see in the world. I want to be able to touch those places because I, after 40 years of exploring the spiritual and the material, believe that that's possible. I think that any challenge faced by humankind, and I mean any challenge, can be changed, released, or healed in divine mind. And that's what I think Jesus was pointing to when he said, whoever believes in me will do the works that I have, and they will do even greater than these. He was pointing to the way, to a path for us to walk. And that's the third reason why I think he was here, is to teach us how to reach that deeper wisdom and power that is within ourselves. Imagine that being within ourselves. Now, of all of those ideas of the universe, take your breath away or kind of take you to a place that's a little hard to cope with, just take a breath and come back into your seat. Relax into your chair, and as you watch what's on the screen, if you can, begin to move your arms and your legs in kind of the way that this dancing, moving, about to jump into the pool bear is. When I saw that, it just cracked me up. Good reminder that we need to ground ourselves, right, in our bodies. So the last window that I'd like you to look through is what I'm going to call the story of you. to have you look gently into the mirror. And don't be afraid of this one. Sometimes we're afraid of looking at ourselves, but I only invite you to look in with the eyes of love, the eyes of compassion and understanding. To think about your own life for a few moments and consider these questions. When have you experienced what you'd call wisdom in your life? Maybe you experienced it as insight, knowing, or inspiration. Maybe in a moment you just knew what to say or to do. You don't even know how or why, but you knew. Or maybe at some point in your life you learned something very precious that became your guide to how to live better in the world. Whatever form wisdom takes, you know it when you experience it. Second question, what helps you to connect to that wisdom? Is it something like an affirmation, this month's unity affirmation, for example, and just think about it as I say it. I am guided by divine wisdom in every thought, every word, and every action. Maybe your wisdom has come from reading spiritual ideas or any other kind of ideas that have spoken to you deeply and resonated to your core. Maybe wisdom is what you connect with in meditation or prayer. Maybe it simply comes from walking in nature. Wisdom comes to us from everywhere because it speaks through everything. Final question really is there a connection between knowing yourself, like Socrates spoke of, being true to yourself, as Shakespeare wrote about, understanding others, as today's daily word described, and having a better life? What is this connection between the inner and others and the outer so that we can have a better life? Something to contemplate and explore for a deeper wisdom within us. Last week, Sheila Maye talked about the power of taking small steps. In other words, to take an idea and practice it to build our spiritual muscles. So what small steps could you take this week to grow wisdom? And if you feel a little bit stumped by that question, let me give you a couple of hints or thoughts that may guide you for the week to come. Find what makes you truly happy. Listen for what brings you deep joy. Discover what helps you to love and be loved. And learn what truly gives you peace. And if you do those more often, I believe that you will be using wisdom to create a better world. Like that radiant world in hand on the screen in front of us, that's how life and our world can be. With that, I invite you to take one more breath. Hopefully you've taken a few breaths over the course of those last 20 minutes. And just turn within for a moment. And let's ground these ideas. And as you turn to that place inside, I'm simply going to say a few words and see what resonates. Tell me, God, what you would have me know for my better life and to create a better world. Because I want to know. I want to know so that it will guide me, move me, shape me in everything that I do. Because I want to use your world. I want to bring that wisdom and love and peace and gentleness into the world. As Karen Drucker sang, my mind is willing, and my heart is open wide. I trust my instincts, the deeper knowing within me, as I let you, Spirit, be my guide. Take a breath. Hold it deep to your heart. And let it all go. Release it as we listen to Carl, who's I think as deeply passionate about change in the world as I am, just in different ways. As we listen to Carl sing, "You've Got a Friend."
When you're down and troubled and you need a helping hand, and nothing's going right, close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, fall, all you gotta do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah, yeah. You got a friend. If the sky above you should be dark and full of clouds, and that old north wind should begin to blow, keep your head together, call my name out loud. Soon I'll be knocking upon your door. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running, yeah, to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you gotta do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ain't it good to know that you've got a friend? When people can be so cold, they'll hurt you and desert you. Well, they'll take your soul if you let them. Don't you let them. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running, yeah, to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, well, all you gotta do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah, yeah. Got a friend. You got a friend. You got a friend. Ain't it good to know you got a friend?
Well, thank you so much, Carl, for your thoughtful and inspiring songs. And Eric, thank you so much for your enlightening and reassuring message about wisdom. Something to think about and meditate on and put into practice.